what is going on? Um, Journal, YouTube. It is Friday, July 18th, and I kind of want to go over this morning's session. We had no trades this morning. We did have our setup present itself. However, we just I don't know. Well, I'll dive into that once we get there. You feel me? Um, so this is just some paper garbage. I just want to take a short. I'm looking at like the 15 second. I'm just bored, just talking to my home. Regardless, here we go on Nasdaq and S&P. So my Wi-Fi just like cut out. All right, so we come into this morning with 10 a.m. news, and I'm like, all right, so it's home sales, right? Or oh, sorry, consumer sentiment. So consumer sentiment's coming out. I'm like, all right, I already know it's gonna be fucked up before that 10 a.m. I don't want to get involved. So we stepped out buy side. We had a larger time frame SMT up there, and then I was looking basically to short down to our relative equal lows right here and right here. I guess you could say right there also. Um, so we consolidated overnight. We stepped the high, and then we broke lower. First, this is our 10 a.m. news, so I'm just gonna kind of go off that. We throw in another SMT. ES took the high up here on in that situation, and this is where it gets interesting. So I was looking on Nasdaq because Nasdaq had the SMT to the downside, so it should have been weaker, and I was looking for this two fair value gap setup right here to be my trade. And I wanted to short, to this sell side, we left relative equal lows, and then top of this wick, and then, yeah, that kind of explains, what I'm thinking here. And then, down to there, possibly some runners. And yeah, that was going to be the trade. But then we tapped into the upper quadrant of that, not upper quadrant, upper fair value up of that two fair value up sequence. So I was like, all right, that's going to be off the board. Let me go check what ES is doing. And by this point, my bad, someone's about to hit my whip, I swear. And by this point, it's like 10-10. And, I go on ES and I see that we have this SMT with our buy side swept. We put in two fair value gaps, and we respected this lower one. And then I was looking around like here, 10-10. And I was debating. I don't know what made me not want to take this trade and what made me want to like hesitate basically. And I would have targeted quadrant levels. That's what I was kind of aiming for. I don't know what made me hesitate. What made me think like second guess. But I think it was the fact that I was just like not ready for ES to present the setup. Even though it should have been stronger than Nasdaq. So that kind of telling me like you know it just kind of tells me to watch out, like realistically, because even though we're bearish, I'm not gonna be stuck to one indice because of the SMT. That SMT happened, but if you look, we are bearish that we didn't take out this high, and we took out this high on Nasdaq. So Nasdaq was fundamentally actually more bearish on the larger time frame. However, I let this smaller time frame SMT basically think the opposite direction. So not the opposite direction, opposite indice, which would be Nasdaq. So that would have been the A plus trade for today, and then this would have been a banger. I already had that thing up. I would have had 10 fixed. Target sell side would have been 250, a nice $200 50-day, and then leave a runner down to there, or just leave a runner to anywhere realistically here. I was gonna take like a mini or a micro off, and then it's whatever. But yeah, that's kind of how the logic went. I didn't really know. I knew after this it was gonna be like nothing because I was looking maybe we reject off this 4 hour breaker, start to push higher, take out some buy side. But once we get this move, it's cash out for the rest of the day. So yeah, just kind of remembering that even though we have this larger time frame, not larger, the shorter time frame SMT, um, basically that would perceive ES to be stronger. However, on the larger time frame, ES was weaker as it didn't take that major high. So that's kind of like a good little reminder, kind of something to think about going into the future. So yeah, ended off today. If you guys want to know what I was basing that other trade off of, like the paper trade, It was this fair value gap right here after sweep. So we have sweep, fair value was put in, and then we have another fair value gap right here. And I took a short off that, and that would have been a good short to the downside right there. Like imagine, like if I was like doing this on actual, 15-second time frame, that would have been a good short right there. You see, but yeah, that's kind of the logic behind today's stuff. And yeah, we ended the week. Like, see, that's a pretty good 15-second trade. That's a macro right there, sleeping the high, and then starting to push lower, breakaway. Well, actually, we do have a fair value up here, so I guess it wouldn't really count as a trade. But this fair value gap, I don't really know if that'd be part of the price leg because this is our breaker, and we got under that, and we tapped in the breaker, so this could be a whole different price leg. Right here is where we break away, put a fair value gap right on top of that breaker, and then that could take us lower, as you can see right there. But yeah, we ended the week off.
The market is open.
Oh no. We ended the week off. Well, why the hell is this like? All right, let me just see. Last week, I want to do from. How do I do this, bro? Last month. That's the best thing. All right, so going over the week, we ended off the week green just by $200, basically. I'm not mad about it. We made back $200 from last week's pretty bad week of $1,200 loss. But yeah, no, I just like to see that we have some consistency. And today would have been also a good day. I let that I think I let the Friday blues and kind of the emotional side of that kind of make me take a step back. I just kind of second guessed it, and then the SMT threw me off even more. So I was like, all right, I don't really know. And yeah, it would have been another $200 day, or at least a $250 day. So going to the future, we have two $200 days, and our balance is at $964 for right now. And yeah, we're gonna see how we go. So I'm gonna do probably a little back test over the weekend. Go over some of some key things, see kind of what the next week is going to give us. We did hit our weekly target on ES, which was a good little call, which was that weekly fair value gap, and I could see us expanding next week. We do look pretty bullish, just because we did tap into the upper fair value gap of a 2 fair value gap sequence that'll push us higher. But yeah, we'll see how we go, how we do. And yeah, not a bad day at all. It would be nice to have a little win there, but believe it or not, this little wick right here by 50 cents, made me cancel the trade for the day. But if I was fully convicted in the yes, I would have had that trade. It would have been good to go. But since I switched over last second because I realized that this SMT is not as this is still the stronger asset. That's what screwed me up. So yeah, I'm gonna cash out. It's been a good week. 2 for 3. It would have been 4 for not 4 for 3. 3 for 1. Doesn't make any damn sense. I would have took 4 trades and I would have won 3. So 3 for 4. I would have been 3 for 4 this week, but the way we ended is 2 for 3. So I'm not mad about that. I'm gonna go into a good weekend, get a good break off the charts, and yeah, I'm just happy to see that going into the new week after having such an emotional week on the first week of really trading these accounts. I'm able to basically show profitability, consistency. Even though we only had 2 winning days out of the 3 days we had, there were still, winning days. And then today would have been a good winning day. It's just my mental was a little bit off. So yeah, it's also nice to see that my strategy holds up. And yeah, I just can't be mad about it. I can't be mad about, this week. I liked it. I wish maybe I had this last trade, but that's the only thing, I wish, coulda, shoulda, woulda is my motto basically. So there's really, no point to dwell on stuff like that. And yeah, I'm low key happy with the performance this week. Um, trying to think of any mistakes that I made like throughout the week. If we go to, um, if we go to my channel, if we go to my channel and see, what my loss was for this week, I would low-key want to see. Oh yeah, it was okay. So see, and even taking this loss on on this day wasn't that bad for me. That was still a good loss in my opinion. The market was just wacky. We just didn't want to do what we wanted to do, and that was just a good loss. We did have that two fair value gap set up. It was a little tricky. She wanted to really paint outside the lines. I'm trying to find a good time frame to see this 5-minute trade, because it's 5-minute trade. Yeah, okay. So it was like a 15 5-minute trade. And we just got stopped out, paint outside the lines, and we dumped. But we were still right about that daily bias, about sweeping that low. So I like to see this clarity come back, and how I'm not, being stupid, And there was also a little fear I had here. I was going to chase price. But, once I realized that, it was the SMT. It was really the SMT that threw me off, and having that stronger, weaker thing. Because, I was so convicted to take NASDAQ, and then ES had my perfect setup because it was the more bearish of the asset. So you can see how my strategy plays into play there, and also, little fact is that, you're only getting 50 cents of drawdown with that trade. So that is also a perk. But yeah, it's just, you live and you learn. I'm excited. I'm happy for the week. We'll go into the next one. Even better. I'm gonna keep my risk still to aim for these 5 $200 days. I don't really care until I don't care about any money until I reach those 5 $200 days. Just because I want to prove, low hanging fruit. I'm not here to catch crazy moves, this or that. I'm here to just go in and out, do what I need to do, and get out. Today could have been a big day, like $300, maybe $400, but that's how it goes. There's nothing I can really do about it. And yeah, that's how it's gonna be. I'm gonna leave it at that. Good week. I will see you next week. I will be back testing this weekend most likely. I don't know if I'm gonna do audio. I think I'll just record it because I'm low key back at the crib now, and I can't be like talking about all this stuff all day. And yeah, treading on, crawling out that drawdown. Wish I had a trade today. That's how it is. So y'all boys stay safe. I will see y'all or you in not in on Sunday, Saturday, Monday for sure. Also, weekly review coming out. Alrighty, bye bye.